Are you thinking of stockpiling up on eggs? Well, there are a couple of grocery stores you may want to avoid. Trader Joe's, Costco, and Sprouts are all placing restrictions on egg purchases due to product shortages tied to the avian flu. This week, Trader Joe's announced they would limit customers to 1 dozen eggs per day in all of its nearly 600 stores across the United States. Warehouse retailer Costco will also limit its customers to 3 packages of eggs per visit, typically sold in 2 and 4 dozen cartons. And supermarket chain Sprouts recently announced that it would limit egg purchases to 4 dozen per visit, at least for the next few weeks. Now, in just the past couple of months, the price of eggs has soared more than 14%. That is tied mostly to the impact of bird flu that we mentioned earlier, and the mass culling of poultry stocks in farms across the U.S. This so-called eggflation is angering consumers who are struggling to digest soaring food costs. Okay, now for more on recent egg shortages and the rising costs, we're joined by Carol Spieckerman. She's the president of Spieckerman Retail, which focuses on business development and retail strategies. Carol, thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you, Sean.
Okay, now I've been to the dairy section recently, and I've heard people just gasp when they either look at the empty shelves or the prices of the eggs still there. Give us the sobering news. How much is a carton of eggs? And I'm pretty sure it's going to vary on what part of the country in which you live.
Well, it does vary greatly, but it varies greatly, so I don't know that I could give a median price.
Right.
It's just a lot higher and noticeably higher, astronomically higher than what shoppers are used to.
So what are grocery stores doing? How are they managing this shortage? I'm sure there are people who suspect there's price gouging going on. I haven't read or heard a thing about the possibility, only saying that people are frustrated.
Well, I think it's pretty clear. I mean, the bird flu has gotten a lot of publicity and a lot of big headlines. So the price gouging thing has come up with other items, during inflationary times and, because it was impacting so many different items. I think everyone understands it's a unique situation, but it's unique in some very unfortunate ways too, which is that retailers often use eggs as a loss leader. In fact, sometimes they put them out for less than they pay for them. And as such, they've actually trained consumers to expect eggs to be really inexpensive. So this becomes just a really big exponential problem because consumers are used to them being so low priced. And at the same time, you have a supply and demand problem where, the avian flu is taking a bite out of the supply piece of it, and the demand just continues to increase. So retailers are actually at a disadvantage when they decrease the price because that just increases demand.
We've been talking about culling, which is just a nice way of saying, you have to slaughter entire gigantic collections of chickens, and that obviously has such a dramatic effect. Is there any reason to believe that prices are going to stabilize?
Well, there's a reason to, sort of an always right, sometimes early proposition. They will stabilize at some point. It's the big question is when. And I think right now the cycle looks to be quite long, just in terms of how you have to breed chickens and how long all of that takes. I think we're months out from a solution because it is a multifaceted solution problem.
Wow, that's interesting. And one story that really got my attention, people have been stealing eggs. In one case, 100,000 eggs at one time, organic eggs worth $40,000. It sounds crazy, but that amounts to grand theft.
Well, I don't think they're going to make a big omelet with that. So it's probably, people just seeing an opportunity to buy something that's in high demand, and I'm sure to find some sort of a resale market for it.
Sure.
And make a quick profit.
That's crazy. Now, what about these rising egg prices? Do you think that they're affecting consumers now? They're shifting towards substitutes that they wouldn't have looked at in the past. Disgruntled people saying, okay, I'm going to try these egg substitutes.
Well, I think there's some validity to that. And, there are plant-based options out there that have become really viable options and analogs to eggs over the, last few years. So they might see, I would expect that they might see a spike in business. But, the eggs, again, are sort of a loss leader. And here's the problem. As such, they're meant to drive traffic to stores. So it isn't just about selling eggs. It's about creating that business and that traffic.
Right.
So when retailers lose that, they lose a lot of business in other categories as well. So it becomes an exponential problem for everybody.
That's interesting because you're coming to us from a town in Arkansas, which, if I'm not mistaken, is home to a pretty big operation. Do you think that operation is being affected as well?
Well, it's a good point. I have to say that Walmart is probably and other highly diversified, deep-pocketed retailers will be less affected than others. It's those small guys that really do rely on items like eggs to create traffic, and where eggs are, being priced as an item that makes a profit.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are really going to feel the pinch. It's the big guys out there that can weather the storm and won't have any problem with it. They also have the economies of scale and the buying power to have priority over a lot of these other smaller players.
President Trump ran in part saying he was going to do something about grocery prices. How long before you think that the public says, okay, enough, we know you're focusing on the federal government, but this hurts us every single day?
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of smoke going up right now and so many different stories coming out right now that it's just a blur. So whether this egg situation gets lost in the shuffle and there's not as much accountability for it because of all the other noise, or if it comes back to bite folks on down the road, remains to be seen.
Okay, Carol, great stuff. Thanks so much for your insight. I learned a lot about eggs in just a few minutes. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.